Hey guys, thanks for listening to How to Money with Cole and Cole. Just really quick before this episode gets started, we just ask that you would like and subscribe and follow their podcast, How to Money with Cole and Cole. Also, share it with a friend maybe who might find this podcast interesting. Also, if you could just give the CFG guys a 5-star review on whatever podcasting platform you listen to, they'd greatly appreciate that. It helps them get the word out and helps their podcast continue to grow. Thank you. Enjoy the episode. This podcast is produced by Spin Market and Digital.
Welcome to How to Money with Cole and Cole.
I'm Cole.
And I'm Cole.
We coach people every day on their money and how to plan for the future.
As financial advisors, we're here to have an honest conversation and educate you on investing, retirement, and everything in between. And we'll throw in some sports talk along the way.
Our mission and goal of this podcast is to improve your money journey and help you create the financial life you deserve.
So let's talk money.
And sports.
Welcome back to How to Money with Cole and Cole. I am Bailey Ashbrook, investment advisor representative at Central Financial Group, and I am back in Iowa.
Yeah, welcome back. I'm glad to have you back. Cole Peterson, investment advisor representative, and I've never watched so much women's college basketball in my life. It's awesome. It's so much fun.
Clap hands.
My girl, we went to the game to go to the Sweet 16.
Iowa, yeah. We were there too.
Me and my family, and it was awesome.
Cole Jaskey, financial advisor. I guess my, we're talking college basketball. My championship pick, I know we all suck in the bracketology thing here, but Purdue lost to a 16 seed, 16 seed.
Right.
So I was like, well, I'm out.
You text the group, and I literally, as I lost, I'm like, Cole J, woo.
Yeah.
Out right away.
I hadn't been watching those games, and so I get the text, and I pull up the scores, and I was like, oh my word, did that actually? It was crazy. But Caleb Westall, producer of How to Money with Cole and Cole, digital designer at Spin Market. Go Hawkeyes.
Yeah, let's talk about herstory. Cole hates that.
Herstory.
You never heard that? It's
I
her.
had not heard that until this morning.
Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, that 40-point triple-double. Are you kidding me?
Never done. The best part is they're like, there's never been a 30-point triple-double. And then she said, hold on, I'm going to make it 40 points.
There's never been a 40-point triple-double in the tournament by a man or a woman.
Or a
Right.
30-point.
Bailey's so
okay.
giddy right now.
Oh my gosh.
She's
I
coming
told
off
my sister.
vacation high, Caitlin Clark high.
It was great too because we had no kids, no responsibility. We sat outside at the Airbnb at Cole's Airbnb, swam and watched basketball TV and sat in the hot tub. I'm like, this is what dreams are made of.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good setup for the TV situation.
Yeah.
She's one of those players that you don't realize how well she's doing until they actually throw the stats up. Like all of a sudden, it was before halftime, and she had 21 points and 7 assists, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought she barely ever scored.
She almost had the double-double in the first half. It's incredible how much she's grown too, because they've talked about like her emotion. She's done she has like an emotional coach, which is like she would get too high and emotional in her freshman.
She's pretty animated.
But she said this is the calmest she's ever been, and I was just like, I want to come back and be you. I want to be you someday.
The only other player I remember doing, and you guys, my age again,
Date.
is Kevin Durant. All of a sudden, he would be playing for Texas, and he'd have 32 points and 26 rebounds. You're like, what?
Yeah.
And
he made it really. I
he
watched
made it
a lot
look
of him in
easy.
college.
Yeah,
Yep.
he made it look easy, and that's what she does. It's crazy.
She's the only player too to have 900 points and 300 assists in a season. Like she is making stats
Nuts.
that no man or woman have ever done in college basketball.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this prior. She has 2 more years if she wants, and the amount of money.
Yeah, she doesn't get NBA money, which that's so. Why would you not stay get NIL money? She's got 4. I mean, she's got 4 major sponsors.
Yeah, Hy-Vee,
Hy-Vee, Buick, Nike, and
I'm missing one.
Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, she's
Crazy.
killing it. It'll be a really tough game Friday, but like me and my sister were talking about, just to get to the Final Four is incredible. It's like people don't understand how hard that is in itself.
If there's one team that has a chance against South Carolina, I think it's Iowa.
Yeah.
I agree.
The Iowa-South Carolina game, I'm going to guess, will be the most watched game of the men's or women's tournament.
Yeah, it's like the championship game.
Yeah.
Be cool.
Awesome.
We could have a whole podcast on the Iowa
Clark.
Hawkeye.
Everyone's
women.
talking about her. She's trending on Twitter.
Yeah.
Every major
Pro
sports
athletes talking to
announcer.
her, yeah.
Yep, it's amazing.
Cool.
All right.
Great for the state of
Go
Iowa.
women's basketball.
No, I love it. What was that, Cole P?
It's like go women's basketball.
Who do you got? Who's going to win it all?
Iowa. Duh.
I would.
It's tough. Yeah.
South Carolina statistically will win. Like they're the better. Like overall, their bench is way better than Iowa's. Okay, let's go on. All right, we got.
What do we got going on today, Bailey?
Got a special guest, Fort Dodge local entrepreneur, killing his game in the electric, or how would I say that?
Electrical.
business.
Electrical business. In the electrical business. Todd Baker's going to join us. I'm excited.
Entrepreneur, started from his car, I believe. We'll talk to him about that. But yeah, we're really excited to have Todd on, and he's going to talk a little bit about how he built his business and all the struggles and the great things that come along with that.
Yeah, I'm excited. Let's have him on. All right, we're excited. We got the one and only Todd Baker. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
First podcast experience, right?
Yep.
Todd, tell our listeners, who are you? What's your background and how'd you get started?
Well, like you said, my name's Todd Baker. I graduated from Fort Dodge St. Edmund, 99. Went to electrical school at Iowa Central. Took my first job at Pioneer Hybrid in Mount Pleasant, Iowa as an electrician. Was dating Amanda Clark, which is now my wife, Amanda Baker. And
Yeah, there you go.
All kinds of Fort Dodge guys.
Yep. She's definitely from across the street. Great woman. She got a little homesick down in Mount
she's
Pleasant.
in Mount Pleasant with you. Okay.
Yep. So we moved back. When I got back from Mount Pleasant, I took a job as an electrician for Pella Windows in Story City. Commuted from Fort Dodge to Story City for 5 years. And during that time, I had gotten my electrical license, and Amanda's dad, Todd Clark, was building houses in Fort Dodge. So I started kind of moonlighting for Todd on the side while I was working at Pella Windows.
Todd was moonlighting for Todd.
Yeah, Todd
That's
and
awesome.
Todd and Todd. That's another podcast.
Hey, next podcast.
How to moonlight with Todd and Todd.
Todd. I love it.
So you own Baker Electric.
Yep.
Tell the listeners how big Baker Electric is. How'd you get it started? What decided you to inspired you to start your own business?
Yep. So great question. So essentially, I was at Pella Windows, happily working as an electrician and moonlighting on the side. It was excellent. Well, Pella Windows came to us and said, "Hey, we're going to close factory." So they decided to close the factory off the interstate there in Story City. And at that time, I thought, well, I'm not quite ready to start my business yet, but it got me really thinking that this needs to happen. I took a job at VeriSun, which is now Valero. I worked there for 8 months, and I had one afternoon, I walked into the maintenance shop at VeriSun, opened up my toolbox, and I had these yellow sticky notes all over my toolbox that were jobs that I had to get to on the side. I thought, I'm going to try this. So I went home. I told Amanda, I said, "Hey, I'm going to quit my job." And she said,
like, what?
honestly, she was like, "No, you're not." Because electrician.
She's probably like, well, wait a second. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, because she was babysitting some kids, nothing real serious. So I definitely was the breadwinner, obviously. And so, being an electrician and then moonlighting was a decent income for Fort Dodge, Iowa. She was against it at first. I said, "Honey, if it doesn't work, electricians,
They'll take me back."
Yeah, they'll take me back. And I tried it, and a few months into it, I hired my first guy. A year into it, Tate and Lyle closed down, so I hired my brother, who's an electrician from Tate and Lyle, so he joined our team. And then quickly, we were hiring probably 2 to 4 electricians a year for 10 years.
Wow. What year was this, Todd, that you started where you went to Amanda and said, we're going to go out on my own?
It was July 2nd of 2008.
He knows the day.
Tough time,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
That's an interesting time to be starting a business in 08.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you guys ever have, I'm sure you guys have, you and Amanda talk about this time, so I'm sure she's pretty happy now.
Yeah, they don't. She doesn't regret.
Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say it's high risk, high reward, and Cole can speak. They kind of had the same thing. Like Cole P told Molly the same thing. Like, "Hey, I'm quitting principal. We're moving home. I have no insurance, no plans, but I'm gonna." It's just so cool when people take that risk.
Yeah. Did you have kids at the time?
I had 3 young kids.
You had 3. Okay.
And they were like 8, 6, and 4. Wow. So it was.
Your situation is almost exactly like mine.
Yeah, and the kids might have been a hair younger, but they were right in there. So yeah, it was quite a deal. And like I said, the first 10 years we grew to about 40, 50 guys, and then after that we kind of transitioned to some larger jobs, getting out of the Fort Dodge area. And yeah, today we employ 89 guys, and it's busy.
That's awesome, man. And you're a huge asset to Fort Dodge community. And One thing, I want to ask you is, and we're always talking about this with, our businesses and things that we run, is the, culture and people you employ. But talk a little bit about, how you've been able to grow to 89 employees and some of your guys, and maybe some of the things you've done that, or you feel like that have attributed to you to get to this point.
Yeah. Another great question. So essentially what I kind of thought of it, or realized I should say, 4 or 5 years ago, is, hey, this is too much for one guy. I can't govern everything and be in charge of everything. So I knew that, for instance, my brother was wanting to kind of get out of the day-to-day electrical, and he's such an excellent kind of office guy. I thought, man, he could be a project manager. And so I started down the track of, I need a few project managers. It's always tough because you're taking then some of your top guys from the field and putting them into the office. So on paper, it doesn't feel real comfortable. We're looking at these non-billable hours,
the highest paid people,
highest paid guys,
Yep.
right?
Right.
But what I realized is that it's worth it, because you can take Todd Baker and kind of divide him into 4 and have the same, leadership and governing style with these other guys. So we were able to sustain the growth in a positive way because we have these project managers that can field questions and do quality control and work on efficiency and material purchasing and just stuff that one guy can't do with, honestly, 50 guys, let alone, there's been times we've been over 100. So
I love that. I love how you trusted people, and I think that's a big thing for people in your shoes, to trust them to take the next business to the next step.
Yeah, and just to touch on that, in full disclosure, it's obviously pretty easy to trust your brother, right?
I don't know.
And
some people wouldn't say that.
And then one of our other project managers is Josh Baker, who has been a lifelong friend of mine for
Not related, right?
Not related.
Okay.
Yeah.
But a great friend since, say, junior high. And then another one is Dave Ryle, who I ended up graduating with. And what a phenomenal,
I think
that was.
You need to give yourself, some credit too, because I hired you guys to do work, and I know a lot of your team, and there's a culture different. I mean, we work with a lot of businesses, and there's a culture difference, and that's a leadership thing, so. And
leadership goes down,
props
if they see you leading correctly and leading the way that you're supposed to be doing, then it goes down to them, and they lead the same way, just like, bad leadership happens that way, and fortunately too, but obviously yours is the other end of the spectrum. So
yeah, and as we know, because we're from Fort Dodge Baker, you guys are killing it. So what do you think sets you apart from other people in the industry?
You know what? I think there's a lot of, good electricians out there, obviously. I think one of the things that sets us apart is really a couple different things. Is number one, kind of our size. If there's a lot of people that have reactive needs, so they pick the phone up and bam, they expect an electrician to be there today. If we told everybody who called our office it's going to be 2 weeks, half of the people would call somebody else. And I don't blame them. So we're able to react to emergencies very easy. Again, we have all the project management in place to take care of the larger jobs and see if something isn't up to our standards, we're going to tear it out and we're going to redo it. And that's on us. We're not going to pass that cost on to our clients. So we really believe in just providing the best service for the cheapest price. And that's really what we've kind of built upon, and it's working.
That's awesome. Can you discuss a recent project you guys have accomplished over at Baker?
Yeah, so in kind of the Fort Dodge area, I think one of our bigger projects that we're literally just putting the little cherry on top right now is the new calcium products facility there east of town. That was $5 million plus job, electrical. And it went off without a hitch. We were able to give the owner the building on time so he could start making the product to get on the fields in the early springtime.
How long is that? Like, what's a big project like that? The duration of the project?
So normally that would have been about a 1.5 year job, but the client came to us, or the owner came to us and said, "Hey, a 1.5 year is not going to work. We need to figure this out." So instantly we get our team together, we brainstorm, we come up with this. We're like, hey, the ground's froze right now. It's January of 22, so last year. Yep. So instead of waiting for the ground to thaw, we went ahead and rented big excavators and we ripped that frost right out of the ground.
Oh, wow.
Teamed up with Jensen Builders. They said, hey, just rip it out. And instead of putting ground back in, essentially, they ended up filling it full of rock. So when they put all that concrete back in, there was no compaction, settling issues. So that saved us about 2.5 months right there. Because again, we're starting in January. Normally the frost is coming out about now, so about 1st of April. So that was huge for us. And then outside of that, we just staffed it accordingly. And guys worked 50, 55 hours, and we handed the keys over to the owner in late November, early December.
That's great. That's awesome. And doing projects in the Fort Dodge area, obviously what you built your business on. I know you guys have expanded outside where you do business, down in the Des Moines area and other places. But your main business still focuses around the Fort Dodge area. So talk about how having a community like Fort Dodge to be able to network your business, and a lot of Fort Dodge is not what you know, it's who you know. What you know is a lot of electrical business, and you do a good job. But talk a little bit about how growing your business in Fort Dodge.
Yeah, so when you grow up in Fort Dodge and then graduate from Fort Dodge, of course we've all got families and friends that we're close to, and then relatives, and so that obviously helps get your foot in the door with some of your closer friends and families, and then it's really just kind of up to Baker Electric to retain those clients. So starting off, there was quite a few people who knew us, being born and raised here, and would definitely give us a shot, and use us. And, we've done a great job. So we've not only, kept those clients, but then they tell their friends, and it really helps. It's one of them things where it's a smaller community. So if you're doing a good job, it's great. And boy, you don't want to do a bad job.
No,
So again, I acknowledge this, and that's one of the reasons why we try hard, to do the right things. And of course we all make mistakes, right? But when we do, we learn from them, and we learn from them from a team. I'll say 95% of the mistakes that are made every year, we have a company-wide meeting, and we try to have that a few times a year, but for sure once a year, and we address all this stuff in those meetings. And we also have a company newsletter that we address these issues. So so the networking, it's been good for us, for sure.
Right. Yeah. Is the Christmas party as crazy as Jasky Trucking's Christmas party?
In full disclosure, we had a Christmas party for the first, 10, 12 years, and we've kind of gotten away from it just because it's the size, and then it's,
guys
what
from outside the area
too wild.
Yep.
It is, yeah.
I'll say this though, it sounds like your guys' work speaks for itself and your extreme ownership in that. It sounds like you guys really know, and we talk about this, taking the time to execute your processes. Like, I feel like it's so easy just to stay busy and be like, we got to take these calls. Take these calls. But it sounds like you guys really take the time to make sure you're doing it right. How do you communicate those values to your employees and how they really believe in that? How do you think you did that?
You know what? I think that's probably one of my largest responsibilities still, is that I take the time to call and communicate with all of our job foremen, all of our journeymen, anybody leading a project I talk to on at least every other day to a weekly basis. So I communicate with them through phone calls and on the job visits that, hey, this is the expectations and we need to deliver. And luckily I've got a team of excellent guys who buy into that wholeheartedly.
I
That's
love
awesome.
that. It's like it's like you're the Caitlin Clark of the electricity business. You got your team bought
Don't make him
you got
blush.
your team bought in.
Don't make him blush here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna take a quick break. We do need to, just before I forget, Todd's been to Augusta and the Masters coming up, so we're gonna talk about that experience briefly when we come back.
For sure.
This podcast is produced by Spin Market and Digital.
Located in Fort Dodge, Iowa, Spin Market's highly skilled team can help you increase your market by updating your website, improving SEO, designing advertisements, and producing podcasts that will grab the attention of your market.
Contact Spin Market today for all your digital marketing needs at digitalagent@spinmarket.com or call us at 515-302-8026. And to learn more, visit our website at www.spinmarket.com.
That's digitalagent@spinmarket.com or 515-302-8026, or visit our website www.spinmarket.com.
All right, welcome back. Let's do a little dollars and cents.
Dollar bills, y'all.
All right, Cole Peterson, contributions. When's
Yeah.
the deadline?
So April 18th. So typically it's tax day, which is April 15th. I think that falls on a Friday or a Saturday. It's April 18th this year. So you have to have your IRA contributions in by April 18th. So IRA contributions last for 2022. So not for 2023. Obviously, we got plenty of time for that. But for 2022, you have to have them in by April 18th. Last year, the max you could do for a Roth IRA or traditional IRA, if you're under the age of 50, was $6,000. If you're over the age of 50, it's $7,000. So there's a $1,000 catch up in there. Also, SEP IRAs for business owners. Like Todd, you don't do SEP IRAs anymore, but SEP IRAs for small business owners typically. The contribution deadline is also April 18th.
Those numbers are going up for 2023. So we got a little more bump. We'll talk about that next time.
Yeah. So we got a little more wiggle room coming up to the 2023 year. And then SEP IRA is the max. It's 25% of your gross income. And there is a dollar amount max too. I believe it's $55,000. I don't have that number directly.
We'll fact check him and correct it next podcast.
If you have a contribution like that, definitely let us know and we can help you out with it. And we can get you
wait.
Don't wait till April 18th at 4:30 like 3 people did last year that came in my office.
It's great. It's great. We want you to contribute. But
right. But I was like, oh my gosh.
So what Cole P is saying is your 22 contributions. You still got time.
Yep.
22.
Yep. Still got some time there.
All right. I want to hear you guys geek out a little bit about golf since I geeked out this morning about basketball.
Masters is coming up next week, right? But best time of the year, I think. All right.
No.
The weather's not. Unfortunately, normally the weather's a little better, so we're playing a little more golf by the time the Masters coming on. But
is it always Easter weekend?
I don't know.
Because that's what it is next week, right? It's Easter.
Yeah, that's right. That is right. So. Well, our guest here, we were talking about this a little off mic, but you've been to Augusta to the Masters,
jealous.
right?
I have. It was spectacular.
In 2018, 2017,
the
year before Tiger won.
Correct. Yep.
And you went to Tuesday practice round.
Yep. It was also on Easter weekend, so I don't know if it's every weekend, but
it must be.
I asked my wife, "Hey, do you mind if I go?" And so I kind of dipped out of Easter Sunday, and yeah, we flew down there to Augusta, and man, it was absolutely awesome.
Did you just go to Tuesday, or did you go to more than? Did you go to the actual tournament, or just the Tuesday practice?
Just
round?
the Tuesday practice round, and then we golfed off-site on Monday and Wednesday.
Oh, nice.
So we kind of had a golf trip with Tuesday being at Augusta. Yeah,
it's awesome.
Like
what was your favorite part about being on? You hear about like all the stuff like the foods, like the cost has stayed the same. They have a lot of like odd traditions that are not odd, but just the same thing they've been doing for 100 years.
Very true. So they all their food is very affordable. I thought one of the coolest things that I didn't expect is when you go in the pro shop and you do some shopping and get your Masters apparel, they box it up for you and ship it home.
Wow.
So you don't have to lug it around the course or run it back out to your car or anything like that. They just, buy what you want. They ship it right home for you.
That's because you've never been there.
Nice perk. I know. It's on the list. I'm getting there some point.
Did you know back in 2008 when you started this business, you'd be hanging out, going to golf tournaments, living the life?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Well,
especially not 2008. 2008 was a tough time.
I just want to touch on this, and I know the guys have a couple questions, but we hear this lots. Oh, it must be nice. Like, oh, I wish I could have that. And I think people really forget like how risk and I mean, I'm sure your wife back then was like, we're not doing like just to take that risk and then to build a team to get to this point. It is so much hours and work and time and
dedication.
Yes.
Yeah. It didn't
so
come.
Kudos.
Yeah. Thank you.
So that kind of goes into my question was going to be, what have been your biggest challenges? Start back in 08, obviously we're going through the recession. Did that really hit the electrical business or was that not? It sounds like you had a bunch of jobs lined up anyway, so it wasn't, but I'm sure you had challenges, so I'll let you take it. Sorry.
Yeah. So the recession itself didn't affect us. We were a younger, smaller company back then. So getting, the work wasn't an issue. The biggest issue for us is that when you go to a self-employment, the banks don't want to look at you or work with you for at least the first 2 years. And that's the first 2 completed years, right? They
Proof of concept. They want to see the concept working.
So there was a few times where, when you have great relationships with some of these people, I can get a job done and then knock on your door the next day or that night and say, hey, here's my bill. You'll pay me. That was about the first year. Then it got to, hey, we're mailing them out like everybody else, and we got to have a 30-day at least, net return. So financing my accounts receivable was by far the biggest challenge because we were growing and we were growing like mad. So to be able to fund your business, with 3 young kids at home and not being able to walk into a bank and get an operating note or any type of help, honestly, was my biggest challenge by far. There was weeks where my brother, like I mentioned, worked for me. I couldn't pay him. And I'm like, hey, Dan, are you okay not getting paid this week? And he was like, yeah, I know you'll get me. And so that was really cool. But that financially is by far the biggest struggle for us.
I got to try that with Bailey sometime.
Such a flawed concept, though. It stinks. That is the hard thing with banks. Even when you're younger, trying to get a mortgage and everything, when you're trying to get started is the hardest when it is, and you have nothing at that point. It's like makes it hard to versus the established people. You can go anywhere and get capital easy. It's such a kind of backwards concept at times. It makes it tough for someone to start a business. It
is. And we kind of joke about it now. When you need a bank, they're not there for you. And when you don't need them, they're coming out of the woodwork.
Of course.
That's the truth. So I'm going to shift topics a little bit. And I know, like all of us, we have special causes, things that we, appreciate doing outside of work. Obviously we all live, we're in our businesses and employees and things there, but talk about some of the things that may be special to you and Amanda, maybe locally or things that you guys are involved in.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a Fort Dodge guy, right? So I don't care if it's, Fort Dodge Senior High or St. Edmund. Yep. I love Fort Dodge. I support, both schools, both communities. I'm a big Fort Dodge wrestling fan. Yep. So, that being said, there's a lot of passion for the school that I graduated from, right? I mean, my grandma graduated from there. Both my mom and dad graduated from there. So I've been able to give back to, St. Edmund, and I served on the board for 6 years, and I was actually the school board president for a year.
Those are thankless positions too. So those are tough positions to be in.
Yeah, It quite honestly, there's a lot of time there, and as we know, it doesn't pay the bills, So, so that's really one thing. And then I've served on the electrical technology committee advisory board at Iowa Central. I coached all my kids growing up, and I think that, from a donating standpoint, has been my biggest kind of reward, I guess, is being able to coach my kids.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I coached, football. I coached girls basketball. I coached, girls soccer. Yeah, you
a little
like
bit,
that?
a little bit,
I appreciate that.
Yep. So I love that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Todd, it's been so great talking with you and hearing your story, and super inspiring. Tell me this: if you could give anyone advice just wanting to take that next step, that next leap of the entrepreneurial, owning your business, taking the risk, what would you tell them?
Well, I definitely think it starts with dedication, hard work, and never being complacent. You have to wake up every day and feel like someone's going to take your plate of food from you. And if you don't have that, it's going to be a tough road.
I love that.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Well, thanks again for being on. Your story inspires me. We're all entrepreneurs here, but at the same time, I love hearing other people's story. It's
best part of our job.
Yeah,
we get to hear people's stories.
Right.
Well,
So
thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, make sure you watch Friday night,
Go
South Carolina,
Hawks!
Iowa. Do we know the time yet?
8 p.m.
8 p.m. They're the
Okay.
second game.
They're the second game. Game before that, LSU, Virginia Tech. Okay, well, whoever wins will get beat by the other team, I think, in the final. But
Yes.
and then the men are on Saturday. We didn't even talk about those teams because they're all kind of weird teams that
Crazy.
no one expected to be there. But those are on Saturday
So
and
Cole
Monday.
P, you're telling me you're focusing on the women's games right now? I just want to.
I am too.
Yeah.
I'll be
I
honest
love
with
it. No, I'm just kidding.
Big Caitlin Clark fans in
I'm
my
all
house.
in. I'm all
Yeah.
in.
And don't forget, May 4th, Money and Margaritas.
Oh, yeah.
Open to the public.
You gotta be there, Todd.
We're going to just talk about investing. It's going to be a good time and have a special guest speaker, and that's open to Fort Dodge. Bring a friend and a client.
DJ prizes, trivia. We're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna talk about investing, but it's gonna be a pretty short.
Yeah. And I just want to say this: if you like these episodes, share them with a friend.
Yeah.
Give us a little like. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, all the social medias. You know where to find us. And then here's the sports quote of the day. Sports quote of the day. Great teamwork is the only way to create the breakthroughs that define our careers. Pat Riley.
Go Cubs.
You've been listening to How to Money with Cole and Cole, the podcast of the Central Financial Group, courtesy of Spin Market. To learn more, visit their website at www.centralfinancialgroup.com and follow them on all their social media platforms.
For now, I'm Cole,
And I'm Cole.
and we'll see you on the greens.
4.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associations Incorporated, member FINRA, SIPC. Royal Alliance Associations Incorporated is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Royal Alliance Associations Incorporated. Material discussed is meant for general informational purposes only, and it is not to be construed as tax, legal, or investment advice. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Diversification does not insure against loss. Any guarantees discussed refer only to fixed insurance products and are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company.